Hi everyone. So I'll just share my screen over here. So as we all know that what we are going to discuss in this session, we will be discussing about SAT, which is what? Scholastic Assessment Test, right? So as we all know that this exam happens 5 times a year, right? And this is out of 1600, right? So we have two sections, English and Math. So English for 800, Maths for 800, right? So let's quickly start with this. So as we all know that it has been going on, digital from 2023. Before 2023 till December 2022, it was happening pen and paper, right? So from 2023, there are some changes in the exam pattern as well as the level of question, the duration. So we're going to discuss all of those changes over here in this session. Including the changes, we are also going to discuss about what is the right strategy to attempt a question, okay? Might be a possibility you are aware with the syllabus or you are not aware with the syllabus. Maybe a possibility you have done those questions with, with any of the SAT classes that you have attended, or you haven't even touched that topic, okay? So concept will not be definitely an issue. We are not looking forward and, we are not looking forward to a concept over here, but what we are looking forward is the right strategy to attempt a paper, okay? So let's quickly start and let's try to understand and elaborate this. So earlier, so till now in US, it is still happening pen and paper only. However, from 2024 in US also, this is also going to happen digitally. However, in international region from 2023 itself, it has been changed to digitally, right? So now what is the difference between the pen and paper SAT and the digital SAT? Earlier, this test was happening for 3 hours and 15 minutes. And now it is happening for 2 hours 30 minutes. So basically they have reduced approximately 45 minutes, and that also includes the breaks also, right? So let's try to go through the syllabus and everything, okay? So if I talk about SAT English, so we have two types. Earlier, which one, the one which was pen and paper, and now we have the digital, okay? So in the pen and paper SAT, we had two modules, okay? First was the reading module, which has 5 passages with 52 questions. And over there, we had writing and language as a different module with 4 passages with 44 questions. The time limit was 65 minutes for the reading one and 35 minutes for the writing one, okay? So the total duration of pen and paper SAT English was 100 minutes, okay? Post that, so now in digital SAT, we have one module only, which has, mixture of reading and writing question in one section only, right? There are 2 modules, but the questions are mixed now, okay? Also, the duration has been reduced by 30 minutes. So now the duration is 35 minutes for each module, right? So 35 minutes for each module. Now in this, in the digital SAT, we have 25 plus 2 pre-test questions. So that means in total, we have 27 questions that we are supposed to finish off in 35 minutes. So the number of questions has been also reduced and the time has also been reduced, right? So now you are getting more time per question in the new digital SAT, right? Similarly, if I move on to maths, so for maths, earlier, there were 2 modules in the pen and paper SAT. One was a no calculator section in which you were not allowed to use any calculator, right? In that, we were getting 20 questions in which 15 MCQ questions were there and 5 were grid-ins. How many of you are aware with what were grid-ins? You can revert on the chat box. How many of you were aware that what was grid-in? Like anyone has seen that paper? So I'll just quickly help you with what was a grid-in. So over here, you were given 4 boxes. I hope you all are able to see what I'm writing on the screen, right? So let's say if the answer was 5 by 2. So you were supposed to write 5 like this, a dash like this, and a 2 like this, right? So what was the problem with this type of a grid-in question? You were also supposed to shade, okay? So you were supposed to shade 5 like this. You were supposed to shade the oblique sign, and you were also supposed to shade the 2, right? Now, what was happening over here? While shading, few of the students were, marking 2 shades or keeping an unshaded area. So over there, they were lacking marks, right? Because in this, the answer that you are writing over here and the answer that you are shading are supposed to match, okay? If they do not match, you will definitely not be getting it correct, right? So those all problems have been sorted out over here. Now we have 2 modules only, as you can see, of 35 minutes each. And now the good part is that calculator is allowed for all of the questions. So there is nothing called as no calculator section now. There is nothing called as no calculator section now. Also, now instead of grid-in, now we are not supposed to grid. So we have something called as SPR, which we call it as student produced response. So you're not supposed to show your working over there, but you are supposed to write your answer, okay? And at times, this may, create a standard trap over there. Why? Because you need to read the question again carefully, when the answers are like 2 by 7. So, that 2 by 7, we cannot express it as a decimal because it's going to be so long, right? And there is a decimal limitation also over here that you can only write 5 digits. Earlier in the paper pencil test, we were not supposed to write negative answers, right? Now we can also write negative answers. In the grid-in, you were just supposed to write 4 digit, you were supposed to shade it. Over here, you are just supposed to simply write your answer. Okay. So we have how many questions over here if I talk about? So we have 44 questions in which we have 20 plus 2 questions. Now, you may ask me why we are saying this as 20 plus 2 and why not directly 22, right? We can also say 22 questions for 35 minutes. The reason behind that is that these 2 questions are basically called as the pre-test question, okay? What do we call this as? We call this as pre-test question. Can anyone revert over there on the chat? What do you understand by pre-test question? What do we mean by pre-test question? Can anyone revert over there on the chat? Right. So basically, those are questions which will be the part of your test, but you will not be getting marks on the basis of responses for those 2 specific questions, okay? They might be the part of your, they are definitely going to be the part of your syllabus. But yes, as per College Board, the difficulty level is not decided. Also, the worst part is that you will not be having any idea about that which 2 questions are pre-test question, right? You will not be having any such information that which 2 questions are pre-test questions. So if I just give you the breakup, so out of 20 questions, we have 15 MCQ and there are 5 SPR. We know what is SPR, right? Student produced response, right? And over here, we have 1 MCQ and 1 SPR, right? So in total, we have 16 MCQ and 6 SPR questions that we are supposed to attend in 35 minutes, okay? So this is like 1 module, and then we have the second module, same like English, we have the same like we have in maths also, okay? So let's try to understand that. Okay, so now, as we just discussed, we have 2 module of 22 questions, 2 pre-test, and this is the breakup. And we have no idea about which 2 questions are pre-test questions. So they might be very difficult, they might be very easy, they might be average. Any idea, anyone, like why we have such 2 kind of pre-test questions in the test, right? Earlier, although in paper pencil, there was no such category of pre-test question. Why they are there now? Right. So Navda says for surveying, what kind of a survey is happening over here in the real SAT, Navda? So why these questions are there? So just understand this. So College Board is an organization that conducts this test, right? From so long, this was happening paper pencil, right? Now, suddenly, if I'm switching to digital, right? So I need to know whether my aspirants are able to tackle those questions or not, right? So I have created 20 questions, let's say in the March test takers, and I have created 2 pre-test questions in the March test only, right? So 2 pre-test, basically 2 extra questions with 2 modules. So basically I have 4 extra questions. So consider me as a College Board, right? And let's say I'm conducting this test and I'm doing a variation in the syllabus, in the question, right? And in the test also, right? So now 20 questions I have created as a part of test. The 4 extra questions are going to help me whether I can introduce these questions as a part of April test takers or the June test takers, right? Then 4 from the March, 4 from the April. I have 8 extra questions for the May test takers. Similarly, then I have 12 extra questions for the June test takers, right? And that questions will be, completely dependent on your response, okay? So let's say if 70 to 80% of aspirants are able to do those questions correctly, then definitely I can introduce it as a part of the test, right? So that is why these kind of pre-test questions are introduced in the test. So let's proceed further and understand about the digital SAT math syllabus after this slide, okay? So now, earlier what was happening in the paper pencil test, that, one second, yeah. So earlier what was happening in the paper pencil test, that the whole paper was exactly the same for all of the candidates. For all of the candidates, there was no such, thing which is called as adaptive in the paper pencil test, right? So what happens over here? So stage one means module 1. So module 1 is going to be same for all of you, exactly the same, okay? So no matter whether you are good in maths, whether you are bad in maths, whether you are average in maths, whether you are prepared for SAT or whether you haven't prepared for SAT, stage 1 is going to be exactly same for all of us, okay? Now, as a part of information, just understand this thing. So let's say, so we know that, the whole SAT is out of 1600, right? It's out of 1600, in which English is out of 800, in which maths is out of 800, right? So just to attempt your paper, you get 200 out of 800 as a basic score, right? That's the basic raw score, 200 on 800, which I have divided into 2 modules. So basically each and every module with equal number of questions will be out of 400, right? So that means in order to just attempt your paper, you will be getting 100 marks in each module, right? You'll be getting 100 marks in each of the module. Now, just understand this thing, okay? So let's say we both are giving the test, right? So let's say A and B are giving the test. So since first module is same for all of the aspirants, right? First module is same for all of the candidates. So let's say A got 150 on 400. Since College Board is going to receive your answers, right, at the very first go, since the test is happening digital right now, so they will be receiving your answers and they will be evaluating your scores then and there. It will definitely, you'll not be able to definitely see your score at that point of time, but they are going to receive it, right? And let's say B got 380 on 400, right? So now what is happening? College Board knows that person A is not good with, the quant section, and person B is good with the quant section. So now what will happen? Since the digital SAT is adaptive now, so what is going to happen over here? Candidate A is going to get a bit easier paper comparing to candidate B, and candidate B is definitely going to get a bit difficult paper in module 2 comparing to A, right? In which, again, candidate A is going to get 22 questions. Candidate B is also going to get 22 questions. Again, 15 will be still common questions. 15 will be still common questions. There will be just a difference of 7 questions between candidate A and candidate B. Just 7 questions will be easier for candidate A comparing to candidate B. So this is the place where the test becomes adaptive now, right? So stage 2, the level of stage 2 will be depend on how good you perform on stage 1, right? So that's how the categories are created over here. If you get 16 to 20 questions correct, and then so basically 20 questions correct over here, 20 questions correct in stage 2 also, so you get 800, right? So similarly, if you get 5 questions correct over here, and then again 5 questions correct over here, so 440, and that's the basic score. So this is how the scoring has been distributed. I hope we are clear with how the test is adaptive, right? So you can just simply revert it over on the chat box. I hope we all are clear with this, like how the test is adaptive, right? Any questions, any doubts, any... one second. So now let's move on to the next thing, which is the syllabus, right? So what actually the smart test takers do, right? Although definitely the target is 800 only, right? A perfect score. But still what a smart test taker do is we identify, what topic is coming, in a more quantity. You can say which topic has a more weightage, right? So if you see heart of algebra over here having like 35%, right? Heart of algebra is 35%. Passport to advanced maths is also 35%. So that means in total, if I talk about 44 questions, right? So 26 to 30 questions are going to belong to the first 2 units. So that means if we just simply cover the first 2 units, 70% of your SAT syllabus will be done, right? The remaining 2 units, problem solving and data analysis, are each of 15%. So that doesn't mean that we have to less prioritize it. But yes, we have to first do these 2 topics, and then we will be focusing on the other 2 ones. The target is, yes, 800, but yes, we are supposed to know on which topics we are supposed to, give more effort comparing to the other ones, okay? So let's start. Let's try to understand what exactly we have in all of these units, okay? So in heart of algebra, we have linear equation in 1 and 2 variables. So if someone asks me what is the syllabus, what is the SAT syllabus? So this is 10th grade maths, till 10th grade maths. Yes, we do touch some topics of 11th grade maths also, but yes, approximately till 10th grade maths. If you are good with, the 10th grade maths, so you'll be easily able to prepare for your SATs. So in heart of algebra, we have linear equation in 1 and 2 variable. The same way, like we have linear equation, we have something called as linear functions. Simultaneous equation, I'm pretty sure you all have done it in your 10th grades. Then we have linear inequalities, equation of a circle, absolute values, equations, inequalities. All of these topics, they can ask you algebraically, graphically, as well as they can relate it to word problem also. Moving on to the next one, we have passport to advanced maths, okay? So here we discuss about quadratic graphs. Then we have non-linear functions. This is something very new over here in digital SAT. And then we have functions and transformation, quadratic equation. Related to quadratic equation, you're supposed to study everything, every single thing. How do we split it? How do we factorize it? How do we solve it? Completing the squares, the graph, and inequalities also, right? Then we have standard trap questions onto rational and radical equations, okay? They also, check everything on domain, range, functions. We have radicals, exponents. So these kind of topics are there. Again, all of these things can be asked algebraically, graphically, as well as the word problem, okay? So now, if I move on to the third one, in the third one, we have problem solving and data analysis, okay? So now in problem solving and data analysis, as we know that it has been broken into two parts. The unit name itself has been broken into two parts, right? So one is problem solving, one is data analysis. So we are going to get 15% questions on this topic. So the first part is problem solving, as we know. So we have percentage, ratio, proportion, variation. After variation, this all is data analysis. Basically, this is statistics, right? So we have two-way tables, basic probability. We have conditional probability also linking with two-way tables. Then mean, median, mode, quartiles, and box plot. Box plot, we know that it is a new, it's going to be a new term, right? Then we have scatter plot, types of distribution. We have linear and exponential distribution. We have normal distribution and sampling. The last one is geometry, right? So basic geometry about lines and angles, triangles, quadrilateral, circle, polygon, unit circle, Pythagoras theorem, mensuration, but they don't ask, in that much detail, right? Then we have trigonometry also. So this is all about the syllabus, right? Now, quick question from all of you. So if you are preparing for your SAT, any idea which app do we refer in order to give a practice test, or, is there any specific app that we refer to in order to give a practice test? You all can revert on the chat box. Right. So Navdha said this rightly, Blue Book app, right? So what is this data about? So there are 4 practice tests that has been, that the College Board has released on the Blue Book app. So we collect all of those tests over here, and we have created this chart that from what topic, which all questions came, and what was the average of those questions, right? So related to geometry, we have 6.25 was the average question per test. There was no question on sequence. There were no question on complex number. There were no question on interest. Functions and polynomials was the most important topic that we are able to see. Linear equations. Yes, linear equations, they ask you graphically, they ask you the application word problem, right? So exponents and radicals also, geometry also. So this was the kind of an average question per test that we were able to see in the first 4 tests of the Blue Book app. Okay, so post this, now, yes, we have calculators now, right? We are allowed to use calculators over there in our digital SAT, right? So one thing I want you all to understand, there is definitely an inbuilt calculator, which I will just show you in your test, right? How does it look like, how to use it, right? So this is the website that you can refer to for your inbuilt calculator practice, right? Which is desmos.com, okay? But over here, the thing is, this black portion that you are able to see is not there. It's simply not there. So you can just practice on the white thing, right? So what exactly is not there? You are just missing out over there. So the College Board is not giving you these all options to access the slope intercept form, parabolas, trigonometry. So whatever you are able to see in the white portion is there on your DESMOS, is there in your Blue Book app. Whatever you are able to see it on the black portion is not there, okay? So related to DESMOS, we can graph things, right? So maybe y is equal to x square, right? We can graph things. We can simply, use this particular feature as a scientific calculator. Anything we can calculate it. Maybe we can, if I just show you, let's say if you want to calculate square root of 7, so simply write square root of 7, right? If you want to calculate, circumference of a circle, so just type 2 and then press pi. Here's pi. Let's say the radius is 3, so write 3. So it will simply give you the circumference of a circle. In addition to it, we have also this feature where you can calculate sine, cos, tan, right? You can also calculate mean, median, standard deviation, right? I don't think so. Post that, more than this, they are going to ask you, right? So this is how we can use the calculator, the DESMOS calculator. We are definitely going to discuss this in more detail. Addition to it, you can also take your calculator. You can also take your calculator, right? So which all calculators we do do we, we recommend over here? So we recommend, so see, DESMOS is definitely there, right? DESMOS is definitely there. With DESMOS, you can take, either a GDC or a scientific calculator. So what is GDC? If I ask you, what is GDC? Can we just revert it on the chat box? What do you mean by the term called as GDC? Anyone is aware with it? So GDC is simply graphing displaying calculator, okay? So the calculator that you are able to see it on the left side of the screen and on the right side of the screen are the two models of calculator that we recommend as a part of your GDC, only in the case if you are not comfortable with DESMOS, right? Otherwise, you can use DESMOS plus a scientific calculator, and these are the model that we recommend over here. So you can use DESMOS plus a scientific, you can use DESMOS plus the Casio graphing calculator, or you can also use DESMOS plus a TI Inspire calculator. These two graphing calculators are definitely not necessary to buy. If you are comfortable with DESMOS, then DESMOS will only help you, right? So it is not necessary to, take your own calculators if you are comfortable with DESMOS. Now, the thing is, so if I talk about DESMOS, right? So as you know that it's an inbuilt thing, right? So if you ask me, sir, how do we practice it? How do you practice PUBG? There is no such way out, right? You just keep on doing, just trying, just try to graph things. Try to write any equation, you'll be able to see a graph. Try to draw a circle. So x square plus y square is equal to 9. Or you can also, just keep on practicing, just keep on, figuring it out what to do over here. So maybe if I just show you over here. So we have graphed y is equal to x square, right? So let's say I was also not aware that the graph of y is equal to x square looks somehow like this, right? So maybe what I can do in the next part, we can just simply try to graph it. Y is equal to x square plus 4. Okay, so it shifted 4 unit upward. So this is how I can figure it out, right? So if I do minus x square, okay, so this will reflect it on the x-axis, right? Simply, if I also do, let's say y is equal to x minus 6 whole square. So what will happen? Let's say, what will happen? So it is going to shift 6 units to the right? So just try to figure out these kind of changes, and then you will be aware with the graph. So if I try to graph, maybe let's say x squared plus y squared is equal to 9. So what I'll be able to see will be something like a circle, right? Are we clear with this, right? So you just keep on practicing. The more you will practice, the more you will get better in DESMOS, okay? Any questions, any doubts, anyone related to DESMOS or any calculator? So Abraham, if your whatever calculator your school is recommending from your IB board, so you can use that. That is allowed in your SAT, okay? But a strong recommendation over here, if you freeze one calculator, okay? So just stick to it, okay? Just freeze that I'm going to use this only. Do not make any kind of changes on the recommendation of your friends that this is better to use, this is not better. Do not make any kind of changes at least, 3 to 4 days or 7 days prior to exam. At least, 1 month prior to exam, you should be, fixed with your calculator that this is what I'm going to use. And that's the same thing you're going to use in your practice test, in your worksheets, in your questions. So at every place in your classes also, you should be using that thing only, okay? Any questions, any doubts so far, anyone? Okay, so let's proceed. Now, next thing over here is device preferences, okay? So we simply recommend touchscreen devices. The reason behind that is, just understand this, okay? So if you go to DESMOS and if you're completely relying on DESMOS, and if you're not even, not taking the graphing calculators, then our recommendation will be that you should take a touchscreen device. There is a reason behind that. Just understand this. So for example, you have y is equal to x square. And let's say the question comes y is equal to x squared plus 800. Now you're not able to see the graph, right? Why? Because the graph has been shifted. So when we did +4 in the last case, what happened? The graph shifted 4 units upward, right? So over here, the graph has been shifted 800 units down upward, right? So if you just keep on zooming, so this zooming doesn't work if your device is not a touchscreen one. You will just keep on scrolling it up like with your mouse like this over here. Either you are supposed to be good with your domain and your range. So the X limit will be called as your domain, the Y limit will be called as your range, right? So with touchscreen devices, what happens over here is, first of all, you are able to zoom it more fastly. Also, in a case, let's say if you are not able to see a graph, or you're able to see graph like maybe like this, what you are supposed to do is just keep your fingers on the x-axis and zoom it. Okay, one from the left, one from the right. So now you'll be able to see the graph, right? Now you'll be able to see the graph. Or if you want to squeeze down the y-axis, you can also do it the same way. One on the negative side of x-axis, one on the positive side of x-axis. You can simply zoom in, zoom out. So this is the reason why we recommend touchscreen devices for your SATs, right? I hope it's clear, right? Any questions we have over here? Okay, so let's proceed further. Now, if I talk about the strategy, right? So once you see a question, what is the most important thing to, to deal with any question? So what I do is, first of all, identify what is the basic concept related to that question. Okay, what is the basic concept related to that question? Yes, Rishita, you can take your devices on the center, right? And you will be also giving your test from the same Blue Book app. Okay, so moving on to the strategies. So first you identify what is the question, what is the basic concept, whether the question is related to quadratic equation, whether it is related to function, whether it is related to linear equation, or statistics, or normal distribution. So you identify the basic concept related to it first. Then you decode the question, okay? And in SAT, the most important thing is, please highlight what exactly the question is asking over here, right? Maybe a possibility the question is of simultaneous equation, right? Might be a possibility the question is of simultaneous equation, x plus y is, let's say 100, x minus y is maybe 30. And the question is asking, what is 5x plus 3y? Maybe a possibility, something like this, right? So in the MCQ options, you will definitely be getting individual values of x and y as the options, right? So please identify, please highlight what exactly the question is asking over here, right? And then in, if you're talking about a school-based exam, right? So the approach also matters, right? The thing is, in your school, you can simply do it the way it is required to be, because you're supposed to show your working. However, in your SAT, no one is going to ask you your working, right? So your approach also matters, whether I can do this question with just calculator, or just by the manual working, or just by looking at the question, whether I'm able to, just identify the answer that, yeah, A cannot be the answer, B cannot be, C works, and D also doesn't seem to be the possible one, right? So you can simply apply your own approach in order to deal with any question, right? And in such kind of entrance test, you are supposed to apply the approach which takes lesser time, right? So let's try to, explore some questions and see, how things are over here. So for the 10th question, if I take it as an example, we're going to start with some of the questions so that we are able to see, how the actual questions looks like. So for the first question, so the question is, which ordered pair XY is a solution to the given system of equation, right? So in order to deal with such kind of questions, first question over here, first question over here, are we going to graph it? Do we need graphing calculator for such kind of questions? Just simply say a yes or no on the chat box. Do we actually need to graph these questions? So Rishita said no. Ibrahim also said no. Anyone who says yes, we require a graphing calculator. See, when you're using a graphing calculator for the very first time, right, you are in a zone to use it in each and every question, which is definitely not required, right? So how do we solve this question? See, we know that x is going to be simply 3, right? And y is going to be 10 squared, right? Because x plus 7 is 10. So 3, 100 is going to be the answer, right? So again, approach does matter, right? If I'm going to graph it and, I'm not saying that you will not be able to solve it. You will be able to solve it, but it will be a bit time consuming, right? Okay, similarly for 25th question. So just identify it. Just see what is the question. So first of all, the concept is related to what? The concept is related to equation of a circle, right? So in equation of a circle, as I'm able to identify that the center of this one is 0, 1, right? Now what we are doing, we are shifting it 2 units down. So 0, 1, if you shift it 2 units down, what will happen? What will be the next center? If I shift 0, 1, 2 units down, so I think it will become 0, minus 1, simple, right? Right. So now out of these all, I think option D matches with 0, minus 1 center. If you have done equation of circle, I'm sure you are able to identify that D will be the answer, right? Right? Makes sense? I hope we are able to relate this particular question, right? Okay, moving on to the 14th question, right? So for 14th question, we can simply refer to DESMOS, right? So how do we do that? Let's try to understand this. So what you are supposed to do for the 14th question, go to DESMOS, okay? Go to this option, okay? Then click on functions, write simply mean over here, and then write these numbers, okay? So 6, 8, 16, 4, 17, 26, 8, 5, 5, 5. So just write these all numbers and it will simply show you the mean, okay? So let's try to do this. 6, 8, 16, 1 second. So 6, 8. So you have to separate it with commas, okay? 6, 8, 16, 4, 17. So we have 16, 4, 17, and then we have 26, 8, and 555, right? So 26, 8, and 5, 5, 5. Okay. So answer is simply going to be 10, right? So use it where it is required, right? You can also, simply add it if you're aware with the concept. You just simply add it and divide by the number of terms also. But whichever method works, whichever method saves our time, so we can simply use that, right? Okay, for question number 10, if you see, so y is equal to minus 3x, and the question is asking you simply the value of x. Are we going to graph this? Just simply a yes or no. Are we going to graph this? Do we actually need to graph, in order to solve such questions? No, right? What we can simply do, y is equal to minus 3, just simply substitute it over here, right? So 4x minus 3x will be what? 15, right? So x is going to be what? Simply 15. That's it, right? I hope we are clear with such category of questions, right? So again, approach does matter, right? Only the right approach will be helping you to save your time. Okay, if I look into the 11th question, right? Do I need to solve it maybe like, by using y is equal to mx plus c and all, right? I don't think so. So just understand this. Can we see that the line is going downhill, right? The line is going downhill. So downhill line will be having a negative slope, right? So answers are going to be either option A or B, right? Right? It's definitely not going to be option C or D. So now what will happen over here? It is having a positive y-intercept. This refers to what? The y-intercept, right? So simply answer will be option B. That's it. We don't need to take any two random coordinates, try to figure out what is the slope, what is the intercept. Because see, in all of the 4 options, the numbers are same, just there is a gap of sign. There is a difference of sign, right? One is negative, negative, positive, negative, negative, positive. So you have to just, look into the graph and observe it, how does it relate it to, right? I hope it makes sense, right? So again, coming back to the same thing, right approach, okay? If you are going to, plot all of these coordinates on the graph, or maybe applies the formula of slope y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1, there will be a possibility that, I'm not saying that you will not be able to do this question. You will definitely be able to, but it will be time consuming, okay? So now over here, let's come to this slide and see. So there are standard traps in the SAT, right? And all of those traps are related to, some of these topics. So we have identified few of them, right? So let's try to go through this. So this is the first question, right? So I want all of you to quickly send me the answer for this question. Which option are you going to mark for this question? This one, the first one. For the first one, which option are we going to mark? So, anyone is able to do this question? Anyone is, so Rishita, you said B, right? Second option. Abraham, maybe. So see, in order to deal with such kind of trap questions, right? Or maybe, if you try to solve it with the school method, it may take, 3 minutes or 4 minutes, but we do not have that much time over here. So the method that we use over here, we call it as what? We call it as the PETA method, okay? So let's try to see what exactly is PETA method. So just see. So what method we use over here? We call it as the PETA method. What do we mean by this? So PETA method is simply plug in the answer. Plug in the answer. Because see, in these kind of tests, no one is asking you about, no one is bothered about how you are solving this question, right? They do not actually need the right working for the question, right? So what we can simply do, simply plug in the answers, right? So if I just maybe try the second question, right? So 5 into 15 will be giving me what? 75. 75 plus 6 will be what? 81. Square root of 81 will be 9, right? 3 into 15 will be 45. 45 plus 4 will be 49. Square root of 49 will be simply 7. Now, is 9 plus 7 2? No, right? So we can simply eliminate option A. If 15 doesn't work in option A, in option 1, so it will also not work in option 3, right? Now, post this also, what you can do, just try -1, substitute -1 over here. So 5 into -1 will be what? -5. -5 plus 6 will give me what? 1. Square root of 1 will be 1. 3 into -1 will be -3. -3 plus 4 will give me what? 1. Square root of 1 is again 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, right? So out of the 4 options, we already eliminated first and the third. If the option 2 did not satisfy it, right? Right now it does, right? If option 2 did not satisfy it, I'll simply mark option 4. If it does, simply mark option 2, right? Are we clear with this? So this is called as what? We call it as PETA method. Basically plug in the answer, right? Any questions, any doubts on this? Okay, so now what I am going to do over here, I will be also, 1 second. So I will also be showing you like a question that we just discussed. So for example, if I talk about this 14th question, as you are able to see it on the screen, the 14th one, right? What is one of the solutions to the given equation, right? So in this one, if we are going to graph it, right? So see how this is a trap. Just see. Can I graph z squared plus 10z minus 24, right? I cannot, right? I just cannot graph this, right? So what you are supposed to do over here, you're supposed to change the variable, right? So right now the question is easy. They're asking you one solution of the given equation, right? But the variable is z, right? So on DESMOS, you should be aware with on DESMOS we can only graph equations in the format of x and y, not any other variable, right? So over here, in order to solve this question, what you are supposed to do? You are supposed to write x in place of z. So it is going to be x squared plus, what was the equation? 10x minus 24. 10x minus 24. So the question is simply asking you the solution, right? So I think one of the answer is minus 12, one of the answer is positive 2. You're not supposed to write both of the answers. The question is asking one answer. So simply you can write minus 12 and you're done with this question, right? I hope it makes sense, right? Anyone, any questions over here? Okay, similarly, if I just show you the 9th question, okay? So in the 9th question, just see the question first. So the list give the values in the data set X and Y, and which statement correctly compares the mean of data set X and mean of data set Y? Quick question, who all are going to calculate the mean over here? Do we need to calculate it? Just simply say a yes or no. Do we actually need to calculate the mean, or we can directly solve the question? Just by looking at the data set X and Y, can we solve it directly? Just simply revert with the yes or no in the chat box. Yes, we can. How? So just understand this. Can we see data set Y, the elements of data set Y exactly matches with data set X with an extra 27 coming with it, right? So if I add a higher number in the data, definitely the mean tend to increase. So simply the answer is going to be what? That the mean of data set X is less than the mean of data set Y, right? So again, coming back to the same thing, approach, right? Approach will only help you to, track the answer, right? I hope it makes sense now, right? Yes or no? Are we clear with such kind of questions? Right. Okay, now I'll show you how the actual test looks like, okay? So if I hope you are able to see, so this is the Blue Book app we have. So just allow me a minute, I'll just open a test and I can just show you how it looks like. So this is the first English section we have. And then if I just show you the math one, so we have directions over here. You can hide your time, but we recommend not to hide it, okay? So that, you are able to see like on which question you are on the period of time, right? How much time is left for a particular question. Maybe you're taking more time in any of the specific ones, right? So as I told you, 27 questions, 25 plus 2 pre-test questions. So I'm going to quickly move on to the math one. So the first and second module of English is over. Post that, you get a 10-minute break, which you can resume. That's your choice, okay? These are the directions, okay, for multiple choice, for student produce. Okay, one thing, if you see the timer has already been started, okay, so please do not waste your time in reading these all directions. Before while you are doing your practice test, you can read it n number of times before your test, okay? Do not waste your time. So do not have any such kind of perception like the timer will not start until I close this button. So that's not there. The timer has already been started, okay? So these are the kind of questions as you can see, right? So this is first question. So see, it's a very easy one. Let's try to do this. So 4 is coming 4 times, 8 is coming 3 times, 13 is coming 2 times, right? So I think it matches with option A, right? So simply click over here and just move on to the next one. That's it, right? Okay, which expression is equivalent to this one? So I think we all have done factorizing in our 9th and 10th grade, right? So what should be the answer? Can anyone, can we text the answer? What should be the answer for this one? So yeah, so product is -40 and we need the difference of +3, right? So it's going to be simply option B, right? Okay, so this is again a reading question. So you have to just read it carefully, okay, related to what concept it is, linking it. So 3 miles per hour, walking at a speed of 3 miles per hour and running at a speed of 5 miles per hour. So W hours he walks. So that means the total distance he is going to cover. Distance is what? Time into speed, right? So 3W while walking and 5 hour while running, right? Total distance he has covered is 14 miles. So simply the answer is going to be what? A, right? Okay. So this one in triangle ABC, the measure of angle B is 52, measure of angle C is 17. So we know that sum is 180, right? So maybe you can ask, maybe you have a concern like where to use the calculator, how to use it, right? So I'll just open some of the questions where we need the calculator, right? Okay, related to SPR questions, one thing. You can write your answers over here, but one thing is there. This is not acceptable. This is simply not acceptable, okay? You're supposed to simplify it. So the answer is, if this is your answer, it's going to be 1/5, right? So you're supposed to simplify a fraction. Also, you can only write 5 digits if it's a positive number. If it's a negative number, then you can write 4 digits. So the maximum digits we can do over here is 5, right? Including the negative sign, right? Also, if your answer is, let's say 2/7. So if I just show you 2/7, okay, and you are writing it, if I just show you on a calculator, what is 2/7? Maybe we all can just simply calculate it. 2/7 is going to be 0.2857142, right? 0.2857142, right? So you do not round off your answers as per your convenience over here. So if there is something like this number coming on, try to write it in fractions, not in decimals, right? Okay. So next thing about the calculator. So this is where the calculator is, right? As we can see. Now you may ask me, sir, we are not able to see from where did you got the mean and everything. So for that, what you are supposed to do, you're supposed to expand it, and then only you'll be able to get the option for calculating the mean, for graphing it. Can we see that the black line is not there? All the features of, the slope intercept form, the parabola form, all of those features are not there. You can graph things, you can, solve things, you can use calculator, you can change the mode. You need to check for trigonometry, you're supposed to know what is the mode, whether it is on the degree mode or on the radian mode, right? So you can simply, just do not expect that it's going to be, working like this. You will not be able to see the option for, using the scientific calculator or for mean median mode over here, right? I hope it makes sense, right? How to use a calculator over here, like an inbuilt one. Abraham, you can create the ID on the Blue Book app by your College Board account. It is going to interlink to your College Board account, right? So this is the category of questions we were supposed to discuss. Let's come back to the next one. So over here, we have 4 questions that we are giving it as a part of assignment, you can say. So I want quickly all of you to take a screenshot for these questions, please. Let me know once it is done. Okay. I hope we all have taken the screenshot, right? Same for these 2 questions. So I want all of you to try to, solve these questions and see, like, what level will be there for the digital SAT right now. And now let's do a quick Q&A. So how many questions are there in the English module for the reading and writing? Let's quickly revert it on the chat box. How many questions are there in the English module? Rishita, in the English module, we have 25 plus 2 questions. So 27 questions per module. So in total, we have 54 questions in the English module. Okay, quickly, how many in the math? How many questions we have in the math? In the quant section? 22, right? So in total, we have 54 questions in English and 44 questions in math, right? Out of which 8 questions are pre-test questions. So that means you will not be getting any marks on the basis of those 2 questions, but it will be the part of your test, right? What is the duration for the English? How long is the English test? "35 minutes for one module, and the math also will be 35 minutes for one module, right? So the total test duration is 150 minutes, which is 2.5 hours, including a 10-minute break, right? What do we understand by the term SPR? What do we refer to SPR? Right. Okay. Calculator preference. So DESMOS is there. With DESMOS, which all calculators we can also carry? So how many types of what all calculators we can also carry with, including DESMOS is definitely there, right? So yes, we can take 2 types of calculators. One is a scientific, one is a GDC, right? Both are allowed. You cannot take multiple calculators, right? What is a GDC? So GDC is what? It is simply a graphing displaying calculators. So we have 2 versions available in the market, right? So we have a Casio one and we have a Texas Inspire, TI Inspire calculator, right? So just to give you an idea about Casio one is like an Android and TI Inspire works like an Apple device, right? So if you are, targeting US universities for admission and you're planning for a math course or an engineering course, it would be better if you can purchase TI Inspire calculator so that it is, it's like a one-time investment for your SATs as well as for your universities, right? So score. So the whole SAT is out of how many marks? 1600, right? Name of the practice test app we have. So on what app we gave the test? Blue Book app, right? How many pre-test questions in one test? In one full SAT, we have how many pre-test question? 8 divided into 4 modules. So 2 questions per module, right? So all are, so from backbenchers, we have these all aspirants who have got a very good score in the digital SAT, right? So Anya got 1520, Vedant got 1510, and then we have Arav Avasti who also got 1560 over here, right? And Shaurya got 1560, right? So these are the results that we have got. So I want, all of you to also have such kind of scores like an 800 in math, 750 plus, we can also target 1550 plus in our SATs, right? So this is the contact that you guys can reach out. So maybe you can note down the contact details and just approach us whenever you want to start with your SAT preparation. I hope all of you have noted down, taken down the contact details, or maybe just take a screenshot. Fine. So that's it. Thank you.